welcome back Reverend Barbara Jean. And she's going to be talking on what you expect, you invite, which again is so in line, right, with our third principle that our thoughts create our experience. So I'm just going to stop these slides. There we go. And introduce you to her in a way that you know a little bit more about her. So Barbara Jean is an ordained minister with both Centers of Spiritual Living and Unity Worldwide Ministries. She believes that love is the answer, regardless of the question or situation. She has inspired people to create new careers, fulfilling relationships, experience greater fulfillment, freedom, and peace of mind. She is the founder and spiritual director of the Universal Joy Center. And Barbara has written 5 books and is preparing to publish her first children's book. So welcome back, Barbara. Great to have you here.
So happy to be here. It's been a minute, so I'm really glad to be back. Really glad to be back. So good to see everyone. I'm delighted. And great to see you, sis, from another mother. Well, the talk today is what you expect, you invite. So expectation is magnetic. When we expect good, good gravitates toward us. When we expect struggle, we unconsciously prepare for it. So this talk is about the art of spiritually empowered expectation. So it's just like, if you're expecting a guest for dinner, you're going to set a place for that person. And the same thing is as we are preparing for what is that we want in our lives, expectations is kind of that table setting, and spirit will fill the seat. So really important that we begin to look at what we're expecting moment by moment, because sometimes we're expecting, you ever hear Murphy's Law, or bad things come in threes, or right, there's a few ways. What if, it's funny how when we do what if, it's always what if this terrible, horrible, awful thing happens, rather than what if I win $1 million? What if I fall in love tomorrow? What if somebody gifts me with a new home? What if, what if, what if? Let's change our language a little bit, because our expectations do create, and words are powerful. So we believe in Unity and in the Centers for Spiritual Living that there is something beautiful and whole at the center of every person, wise, resilient, deeply connected. And these spaces that we have here, these gatherings, are a way to remember that truth. So as we're getting started, what I'd like you to do is just take a deep breath and just fully arrive. You don't need to be anywhere else. We're just exploring a powerful idea. What you expect, you invite. So what we want to remember today is that there is one life, one intelligence, one loving presence expressing us all. And this presence is already active in every life. It knows the path forward. It knows the good that is seeking expression. And when we open our minds to possibility, we release fear-based expectation. Yes, fear-based expectation. And we welcome grace. So I want you to think about a question while we're going through this. What is one small good thing you're hoping for this week? Good thing. One good thing this week. So just let that kind of ruminate. So have you ever noticed that when you're expecting something to go wrong, it often does? You walk into a meeting a little bit tense. You travel expecting delays. You start a conversation braced for conflict. And somehow, almost magically, the world cooperates with your fear. But the opposite is also true. When you expect kindness, opportunities, support, life has a strange way of delivering. Expectation is magnetic. So when you think about, like, I was thinking about this when I was working on this talk, and I was thinking about the places that I've lived in over the last 20 years since moving to Toronto. Well, 20, oops, coming up to 26 years. Um, when I moved to Toronto, I had the expectation that starting the center would happen. And I had no doubts about it whatsoever. In fact, I flew to Hamilton because WestJet didn't fly into Toronto yet. And I flew to Hamilton with a one-way plane ticket, $40 in my jeans. And somebody had said I could sleep on their couch in Toronto. So I was set. I had everything I needed, 2 suitcases of summer clothes, ready to go. Fully committed to the idea. And so when we do that, when we expect something to happen, it's going to happen. Maybe not exactly as we picture it, right? Often better, often better. So just imagine setting a beautiful table for a guest. You know, you polish the glasses, you light the candles, you lay out your good dishes. Why? You expect someone to arrive. And they do. One of the things that you'll notice in the prayer work that we do is we always put in a gratitude statement, what we're grateful for. And that is so powerful because what we're grateful for is generally, as we were growing up, right? You got to say thank you when somebody gave you something. So we have these pathways in our brain that automatically, you know, somebody will go, oh, you know, that train of thought, right? We do have pathways in our brain where an idea will automatically move into a certain expression because of how we're familiar with it. And so when we're sitting back saying thank you, the reason it is so powerful is because we have, in fact, been trained to say thank you after we receive. So now in our prayer work, we're actually praying that something is already accomplished, and we're saying thank you as if we've already received it, therefore tricking the brain into believing we already have it. So there's a journey that we're on, and expectation is just so powerful. I wanted to share with you a little parking spot story. I once knew someone who always said, a parking space is waiting for me. Not arrogantly, not demanding, just calmly, and 9 times out of 10, a space appeared. Was it magic? No. The expectation changed their energy. They drove calmly. They noticed openings others missed. They didn't spiral into frustration. Expectation reorganized perception, and perception reorganized experience. So I had an experience of this recently, and you know, I know most of you are fairly familiar with Toronto. At least you know how big it is and how hard parking could be sometimes. And I remember going to an event on a Friday night, I believe, downtown Toronto, on Spadina, between King and Front. And there's very little parking in that section. In fact, there were 3 spots. And as I rounded the corner, somebody pulled out and I pulled in, right in front of the place I was going to. Now, why does that happen? Well, because before I leave, I go, you know, there's right and perfect parking always. And although that seems pretty simple and silly, it's a way of sort of building our faith. When we start to set our expectations, set an intention, and then we watch it manifest, that helps to expand the faith that we have. Because we tend to believe that this out here is what's real. But what's out here has always already been created. What's real, what's coming, comes from in here. So when we set those expectations, we actually create the space for something marvelous to happen. There's a story of a teacher, I believe in New York City. There was a film about it that I watched many, many years ago, so I don't remember all the details. But it was an impoverished community, and the kids were not treated all that well, frankly. It was a high school, and they didn't expect anything from these kids. This one teacher comes in to teach math and decides he wants to teach them calculus. And they're going, you're out of your mind. They can't learn that. Right? Expectations. But he believed they could, but because he wasn't allowed to teach it, he decided to teach it to these kids at 6 a.m. every day, Monday to Friday. And you know what? The kids came. They came. They came and they learned. And that school ended up having one of the highest scores in all of the United States for their math students because they did learn calculus. When we expect, now that teacher expected his students to succeed. And he made a huge demand on them. I don't know if you know many teenagers, but arriving at school at 6 a.m., well, getting them to arrive at school can be a task. But at 6 a.m., these kids really wanted to learn. They wanted something new. I was in Kenya 2 years ago, and when I was in Kenya, there's a center there, a CSL center there, and the students go through so much to be trained, and they're trained by ministers here in North America. And there's a bit of a time lapse, which you can well imagine. So if we're teaching a class here at 7 o'clock at night, you want to know that they're taking the class in the middle of the night, probably 3 or 4 in the morning. I can't remember the total difference of time. But in that time, that's when they're doing this. And sometimes the internet just goes out. Africa has these brownouts and stuff. And somehow they keep going and keep going. And we're in the process of actually licensing a group of ministers that have been trained in the Kenya Center. The idea is when we provide the opportunity and we have an expectation that the people in our midst are brilliant and fabulous and uniquely qualified to do whatever they are here to do, we start to create an environment where they can succeed. Not because we've done it for them, but simply because we believe in them. And I mean, think about that. When somebody says to you, oh my goodness, like, that was so great. There's a nice warm feeling that comes from that. But if somebody comes to you and goes, whatever, then you start to second guess what you just did. Like, was it good enough? We need to stop all that and learn how to love ourselves and get into that place of self-love where we can begin to create something that is uniquely ours. So expectation works on 3 levels: psychological, behavioral, and spiritual. And in the psychological, you'll notice what confirms your belief. If you're going through life saying, I'm so broke, you might get to be right. In fact, you probably are right. Behavioral, you act in ways that support the outcome. So if you're always expecting someone to disappoint you, hurt you, guess what? Somehow that's going to happen. And you're going to sit back and go, see, I knew it was going to happen. I knew that was going to happen. You're right. You expected it, you invited it, and it appeared. And spiritual, you align with the field of possibility. Now, when we align with the field of possibility, we actually set up a mental equivalent where spirit can rush in and fill that form. So probably everybody here knows about Jell-O molds. You pour some Jell-O in, maybe some fruit, and you throw it in the fridge for a few hours, then you take it out and you drop it out, and it's the exact shape of the mold, and it looks beautiful, and then you can serve it. Well, a mental equivalent is that mold. So what we're doing is we're creating a mold in our consciousness of what we would like to experience. Now, sometimes the mold that we're using is life sucks and never gets any better, and why are people picking on me? And we'll get into this spiral, right? We don't want to do that. We want to begin to shift our thinking into something more positive and productive, something more in alignment with our divine nature. Because when we remember that we're created in the image and of the likeness, what does that mean? Think about that for a second. I'm created in the image and of the likeness of God. I'm created in the image and the likeness of spirit. What does that mean? Well, it doesn't mean that the universe is 5'2" with blue hair. What it does mean is that what it is, I am. What it is, I am. What it is, you are. So each and every one of us is an aspect of that creative intelligence. And we are all unique and special, every single one of us. And because we're unique and special, we show up and we give our gift into the world, which only we have and only we can do in the way that we do it, right? We're all unique. And so if we allow ourselves to share that gift, we begin to transform everything around us. We begin to create a life that honors the very essence of who we are. So one of the things we sometimes get, pardon me, in New Thought is that, oh, so you think I'm to blame for this. And that's not it at all. That's not it at all. Yes, we are responsible for our lives, but we have to keep in mind that we're part of the collective consciousness, right? Remember, there's only one thing going on, one creative thing. So the universe, we live, move, and have our being in it. It operates through us, and the way we direct it is with our thinking. So what am I thinking about moment to moment? What am I thinking about day to day? Am I thinking about how my sister said something to me when I was 12 and I still feel bad about it? I still feel like she was being mean to me? Or have I forgiven it? See, we sometimes forget that these thoughts that are running around in our mind are actually creating. See, we don't have to just speak it. We just have to think it. We just have to believe it. And if we believe that we're not enough, life will show up as us not being enough. But if we turn that around and we go, wait a minute, I'm created in the image and in the likeness of the Creator. What am I going to do with that? I'm not subject to chance. I'm subject to choice. What are my choices? See, life is complex and systems exist and chance exists, but within any circumstance, expectation shapes our experience. It's not control, it's orientation. So imagine that two people go into a job interview. Same interview, the candidates have the exact same resumes, basically. One walks in going, I hope they don't see my weaknesses. The other one thinks, I can't wait to show them what I bring. Same skills, same resume, different expectation. Guess who gets hired? Yeah, I can't wait to show them what I bring. That's the difference, is that mental attitude. So the turning point is to recognize that we're spiritually empowered. We're spiritually empowered. And our expectation is not wishful thinking. It's quiet confidence that life is not against you. It is for you. It says good can happen to me. Support can appear. Guidance is available. Love is present. Even when I don't see it yet, it's still there. So we don't have to demand miracles. Just stop reserving space for disaster. How many of you save money for a rainy day? What if you saved money instead for a glorious vacation to the Bahamas or a trip overseas, a weekend in Paris? You know, what if we saved our money for joyful, beautiful things, a lovely outfit for our child's wedding, or, you know, see, we can do that. There's nothing wrong with saving. It's just, what are you saving for? Are you saving for a problem? Or are you saving for something fantastic? We don't have to demand miracles. We just have to stop reserving space for disasters. So this week, what I'd like you to do, I like giving homework, is just to ask yourself every day, maybe even a few times a day, what am I expecting right now? What am I expecting right now? Am I braced or open? Defensive or receptive? Fearful or curious? Because even if we shift from this will be awful to this might go well, that still changes everything. That changes everything. Each and every one of us can deal with our expectations. And expectation is not about controlling outcomes, it's about choosing which possibility you make room for. So I invite you to ask this question: what would you set the table for if you trusted that good was coming? What would you set the table for if you trusted that good was coming? So I want to invite you right now, let's just take a little meditation time. And close your eyes if you're comfortable. And just imagine for a moment a table in front of you. What are you setting it for? Stress? Disappointment? Conflict? Now gently clear all that away. Imagine yourself just clearing the table. And now lay down peace. Lay down possibility. Lay down support. Lay down joy. And as you do this, notice the seat filling with something beautiful. And allow that feeling to settle into your body, to light up every cell. To enliven and invigorate your physicality. And open your mind to a new possibility. Good is not scarce. Guidance is not distant. Love is not withheld. We open the door, we set the table, and welcome what is ready to arrive. And taking a deep breath in, and opening your eyes as you feel comfortable. And so it is.